Hello, welcome to the I'm Excited podcast. I'm your host, David Hicks. I'm very excited today to have with me Izaac Barrera, who has an amazing story to tell, and it's very courageous of you to tell a story. So first, I want to thank you for that. We'll just jump into the story, and I'll warn you ahead of time, this is my first time hearing the vast majority of it. So I'm like you, this is very new to me, but I definitely wanted him to be able to share this with you. And so, Izaac, first just tell us a little bit about yourself, just general background, growing up, family dynamics, anything you want to share just in general about yourself.
All right, so first of all, I just want to say thank you for having me, David. And I'm the youngest. I grew up with two older brothers. I'm 20, both my brothers. My middle brother is 7 years apart. I'm 7 years apart from him, and 14 years apart from my oldest. So it's been a big dynamic, we've, the majority of my childhood was spent with my middle brother, and a lot of my hobbies and stuff, for example, I enjoy playing video games that had come from my middle brother. That's been a big part of my life, and I just, I have two loving parents. I'm so thankful to have them, blessed to have them. They're amazing. They've been just the best I could ask for.
Well, okay, wonderful. Now, that sounds like a wonderful environment in which you grow up, but at age 15, you attempted suicide. Correct. Now, first, just give a brief description on what you did to attempt suicide.
Yeah, so actually, I think I'll backtrack a little bit and talk a little bit more about my childhood and sort of what had led up to this. So I think I'm not sure exactly when, but I'd grown up with anxiety, and that had been a part of the majority of my life, but I had no idea about it. My parents didn't have any idea. It was more of just, I thought it was nervousness, and a lot of the things I was feeling, they were pretty normal, or for the most part, people had it a lot worse, so I didn't ever want to say that I had anxiety because I really never knew about it and knew how serious it was and how serious mine was. And so, yeah, growing up, I think the biggest thing was school was the main factor of a lot of my anxiety came from school. And so that showed itself through, for example, big projects we had, or any projects where I wasn't comfortable with doing, speaking in front of the class or having any group projects. That wasn't really my thing. And so it brought a lot of anxiety for me, and these projects that I had a set timer to do, it took a lot out of me mentally. But I'd always get through them, and well, at least I thought at the moment that I'd always get through them. But over time, slowly as I was building up all this anxiety, this stress, I never really talked to anybody about it, and that just slowly built up. But I had no idea over time it was building up, and I'd get through it. I think I'd be okay. And sort of that's where the cycle had started. Was in school, and that whatever I was going through that was hard for me, I got through it. Thank God. But I never really dealt with it and had the time to process it. So where I'm going with this is where it had led me to what had happened. And I was actually 14 at the time, a freshman in high school. I had tried taking my life by jumping from the third flight of stairs from my high school. And what had led me up to this point was, like I'm saying, school was the main factor. Over time, it built up. My cup was filled up with all my stress, anxiety, anything that was on my plate that it was big for me at the time, when I never talked with anybody about it. It had built up. Did you have anything you wanted to?
Yeah. Okay. So you talked about anxiety in school. Expound on that word, anxiety. What were the different emotions you were feeling? What give us more of what you mean by anxiety.
Yeah, so for me it was a lot of just thoughts coming at me that really just overwhelmed me. For example, like if I had a project that I had to do, or an essay that I had to do, it was like, man, I'm not gonna have enough time, and I really procrastinated things, and that really affected me. Like, man, I'm not gonna have enough time to do this. What's my grade gonna be? And I was a perfectionist too, and so if I didn't get a high enough grade, then I'm like, man, it really affected me mentally. And with my perfectionist attitude, I really thought that like if I couldn't do this to my perfect standard, then why even do it at all? And so, to get to this perfect standard, I really had to work myself a lot, and that really just led me down to thoughts of just feeling so worried and constantly just on edge, trying to do my best. And so, it was just a lot.
Can you remember about when this started, about what grade level you were at when these feelings of anxiety and pressure and it started really coming on and related to school?
Yeah, I think in elementary school it was fine, just a little bit here and there, but I think it really more started in middle school. Just when, especially, I had I think about 8 or 9 classes different classes that I had to take for middle school, and it just really brought on it was a whole different change from elementary school, and with all these projects and classes that I had to balance, it really just it was a lot harder than elementary school, and then it obviously carried through high school as well.
So when you were you're 14. What grade is this?
I'm a freshman.
You're a freshman in high school. What did you believe at that point about yourself? What kind of thoughts did you, when you thought about yourself, what did you think?
Yeah. So I think my self-worth was very much connected to how I performed in school. I was doing marching band at the time, and how I performed there, it was very much connected to, if I had high enough grades, then I'd think more highly of myself. If I was, marching at a good level that I expected myself to be, then I was proud of myself. But then if I fell anywhere below that, then it really affected me. So my confidence and everything, it just infected my whole day. I went around just kind of gloating, and it was tough on me.
At home, were you hiding how you were feeling, or was it kind of obvious that something was going on with you, that you were wrong?
I'd like to think I hit it pretty well, but obviously after the fact of my attempt, my mom could there's things she could tell her. She's like, oh yeah, now that there's things I can pick up on, but I think for the most part I hit it, and really nobody knew about it.
I've kind of long theorized that, when it comes to murder, there's first degree where it's planned, it's intentional, and then there's kind of second degree where it just kind of the spur of the moment. And so I've thought in my mind that suicide is probably the same way, where there's suicide attempts where someone plans it out, they're writing notes, it's really well thought out, but there's probably suicide attempts that are just kind of almost spur of the moment kind of things. Between those two extremes, what do you think that decision process was like for you?
Yeah, so mine was very much spur of the moment. About a week before that I attempted to take my life, I had the flu, and during that time I was overwhelmed with thinking about how much makeup work I had to do, and there was thoughts that popped in my suicidal thoughts that popped in my head, but I really never considered acting on them, and it wasn't until that day that I considered seriously acting on that thought. So it was definitely spur of the moment.
Okay, so one more question I want to ask before we get into the actual attempt. Did you beat yourself up a lot mentally?
Oh yeah, a lot of just everything. But yeah, my whole life, up until that point was just me constantly beating up myself. And
what's a typical, as it beats himself up thought? What was a typical one sound like?
I think that I'm not good enough. I expect more. I always expected more of myself, and it was never enough really for me.
Okay, so the day comes, you make this attempt, you jump. Help me understand this a little bit. You're jumping from where to where?
Yeah, so I climbed up the class that I was supposed to go to was only on the second story, so this was very much intentional that I went all the way up to the third flight of stairs, and I had to walk down a few stairs just so I could climb over the railing that they had, So, I waited until everyone was gone from passing period, so I stayed in the restroom a little bit, and then once everyone was gone, I think everyone was in their classes, that's when I attempted to, walk down a couple stairs, and then I hopped over the railing. And I had originally thought for the longest time that I blacked out, and I fell, I think just like my feet had landed first, and I had sort of fallen forward. And thankfully that was one of the best ways to fall, and I thank God for that. But the reason I'm mentioning that I thought I'd blacked out is because that's the last thing I remember. But
do you remember any thoughts like as you're falling or anything like that?
No, but the nurse was, because where I'd fallen was like right next to the nurse's office.
Wow.
And yeah, and she come over, and I was able to give her my name, I think my parents' phone number so she could call them. And so, I had no idea of this until I think maybe like a year and a couple months after the fact that I said this stuff. And it was amazing because I don't remember saying that at all.
What is your next coherent memory?
I think there was a time after I arrived in the hospital, they obviously had me, I was really just under anesthesia, and they really had me medicated to the point, because I was in so much pain. But I do remember I didn't have my eyes open. I asked for a piece of paper because I couldn't speak. They had a tube in my throat, I think that was helping me breathe. And I'd written down, I requested for water because I was just so thirsty and my throat was so dry.
Right.
That was like one of the first, I think, memory that I can remember being in the hospital. But then, there was, I think, the next moment after that is I think transferred over to another hospital to get surgery on both my knees. That was like the next time I remember waking up.
What injuries did you sustain?
Yeah, so every part of my body had something broken except for my arms. So the major breaks were in my knees. I had shattered both my kneecaps. I had shattered down here, I think it's the tibia. I had shattered that. And then obviously my feet, my toes, they were all just broken. I had cracked my skull a little bit. I don't know if you can see up here.
You have a visible scar on your forehead. You might not be able to see it, but you do.
I cracked open my forehead, and that was one of the first things they had done was to work on that. I had a rip in my aorta, so they had to put a stent. That was the very first thing they did. It was they had to put a stent in my heart just to help piece it together. And I think the heart doctor was saying that any more, like tiny bit more that I had ripped of my heart, then I would have died.
Wow.
And so that was it was a blessing to hear. And I had broken a bone in my lower back. I can't remember. It was I think maybe L4, L5. I'd broken a bone in my lower back, so I couldn't sit up without the support of a specific back brace that they had to give me. I couldn't for a couple months. I had to use that if I wanted to sit up, just to help stabilize my back and allow it to heal. I'm trying to think of what else. Just a bunch of stuff on my face too, and I think that's the main things though.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot. This was a major fall.
Oh yeah.
That really could have taken your life. Before the attempt, throughout your growing up years, what did you know about God? What were you hearing about God being taught? Did you grow up in a church, or what? What was your relationship with God like?
So my parents, they both grew up. They were Catholics, and I'm more familiar with my mom's side of the story. My dad really hasn't talked, and I haven't really talked with him more about his views in growing up Catholic. But for my mom, she really she didn't feel comparing it to now, going to other like Christian churches we have here in Texas, she just didn't get she just didn't feel right in a Catholic church. It didn't fulfill her spirit, and she grew up and it wasn't pushed on her, and she didn't feel the need to. She just didn't really feel the Spirit calling her. So growing up, for me, my mom would always talk about God, and there was things here and there, and I appreciate her. Almost every morning on the car ride, she'd pray every day, and I really thank her for that. It was always so beautiful to hear her pray in the morning for me every day, and for family. That was awesome to hear. And so I knew that, of God and Jesus, but I really never understood, what Jesus had done for me, and how much he really affects my life. And so I really never thought to pray. I really never. We didn't go to church up until probably like that year before. So maybe when I was around 13, we found a church close to where we lived that we'd started going to. And so, yeah, I really didn't have a close relationship with God at all. But it was amazing. The day that I attempted to take my life, I called out to God. And that actually just came back to me a couple months ago. I prayed to God, and I just asked for him to help me. And that sort of just had been drowned out, obviously from all the emotions I was feeling. But I thought it was beautiful that I think it was in Romans, it says that call upon God and you will be saved.
Yeah.
And so God's amazing.
God is amazing. Call on the Lord and you'll be saved. So now you survived. You realize you survived. Tell me about those, I guess you went first weeks, months, and anything related to any changes in your thoughts of God, your relationship with God during those first weeks and months after surviving.
Yeah. So the earliest moment I remember, I remember like immediately apologizing to my parents because I just felt so much shame, and I just felt so bad and guilty. And thank God that my mom was so supportive of it, and she immediately went telling me not to say sorry. It's not my fault. Like we're not thinking of you like that. We're just so happy you're here. We're blessed just to have you. And so that really, that was God speaking through her to me, helping me to not focus on any of the guilt, any of the shame that I may be feeling, and allowed me to heal, and allowed me to just thank God for every single thing, especially for saving my life so that I'm able to still be here. And so, over the couple of months, I was just grateful for every single thing. I couldn't use the restroom on my own. I had to have my parents, come with me, and there was a cup that I would use that I had to pee in because I couldn't get up. And even something as simple as just washing my hands. I couldn't go wash my hands. I couldn't. If I wanted a snack, if I was hungry throughout the day, I couldn't just walk and go get that. And so I just became grateful for every single thing that God had given me and I'd taken for granted for. And it really just opened up my eyes to how great God is and all that he can do.
So at this point, you're very thankful to be alive again. You're much more aware of God in your life. Now, how long ago was it? It was pretty recent that you were baptized, correct?
Yes.
How long ago was that?
That was, I wrote it down because I knew I'd forget.
You're 20 now, just for everyone's sake.
Yeah. This was, I wrote it down here. On May 19th, 2024. So
okay.
Yeah.
May 19th, 20. So it was this year.
Yep, this year.
Talk about that journey from those first months, and now you're much more aware of God. How did you keep growing that relationship with God, with Jesus? How did you learn about him? Were there people in your life that helped you learn about him?
Yeah.
To the point that you made the decision, I'm giving my life to Jesus in baptism.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll just bring up that my attempt happened in September 24th, 2018, and with the baptism now is 2024, May 19th, 2024. Just to bring a little more context and help you understand.
The length of the journey.
Yeah, the length of this time that has gone by. So, yeah, every day I was, after the attempt, thankful, and I still just was thankful, and I was praying, but I really did. We hadn't started going to church again yet, and it wasn't about until about 2022, maybe I think December. I'll backtrack a little bit. October 31st, on Halloween Day, I got my first job when I was working at a rec center in my city, and that was a blessing in and of itself that God had given me a job because I was praying about that. And that same day, a doctor it happened to just gave me encouraged me. It was God speaking through him, saying that I was really personal and charismatic. So that really gave me the confidence to go and push myself to apply for a job. So thank God for that. And he had given me this job. But he had given me also so many other blessings. And one of them had been a coworker had joined in, I think, December of that same year. So like a couple months after I had started there. And we had gotten talking, and he had brought up Christ. And he started talking about it. He's like, would you be open to the idea of us doing a Bible study together? And I was like, sure. I was a little hesitant at first. Just like, oh man, I gotta put aside this time to go do this, and gotta worry about this and that, and I don't know. I was like, I'll give it a try. And so I gave it a try, and that first Bible study that we had done I was like, man, it was awesome. I got to talk about my story, and it was sort of just the first study was talk about me, and he had talked about God a little bit. And ever since that first Bible study, I just wanted to keep doing more. I wanted to feed my spirit more, and I thank God for sending that coworker. His name is Raymond. I thank God for sending Raymond to help draw me closer to God and bring me just closer in relationship with Jesus. Because he would have definitely given me some other opportunity to someone else, but I'm just so thankful he gave me the opportunity to grow closer when he did, and had it not be later and I'd still be struggling with certain things and my anxieties, and he brought me closer through Raymond. I just gotten closer with my relationship with Jesus, and eventually that led up to me wanting to get baptized because I wanted to live for God and just wanted to be fully devout to him, and not
Well, there's a story in the Bible where Elijah, the prophet of God, he goes to God, and he basically says, Lord, take my life. I'm the only one left. And, I'm done. I'm through. Just take my life, Lord.
Yeah.
And God helped him understand that he wasn't alone. There were 7,000 other people that had not bowed the knee to the idol, to the god Baal, and that Elijah was not alone. And so God sent Elijah back on a mission. So Elijah's desire to take his own life was based on a lie, that he was alone. Looking back on it, what lies did you believe about yourself or God or anything that contributed to you wanting to take your life?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing was just that I never thought that I was enough, and that my standards were always set so high where they were they eventually got to impossible. And so that was the biggest thing, is that it was never enough. Whatever I did, no matter what, it was never enough. And that just led to, it really just shattered my confidence over time, because I expected more and more and more of myself. But it was just too impossible for me to keep up with my own standards. And so there's things where I just talk horrible about myself, saying I'm not enough, I need to do more. My parents expect more, when in reality they were so supportive of me. All they really cared about was me just passing school. But these standards I put upon myself they were crushing me, and it was bad.
So how would you describe someone out here, they don't know God, they don't know Jesus. How would you describe now their love to whomever?
You're saying how would I describe God's love?
Yeah. How would you love of God, love of Jesus for yourself and
Yeah.
for anyone watching this?
Yeah, I just say that he tells us the truth and that we're his child, we're his chosen one. We have our own talents and we're unique and we are enough that, you know, no matter what lies the devil may try to put in our head, that we're enough no matter what we do. And there's nothing that we can do, you know, to make us not enough, because God made us in his image. And it's brought so much peace knowing that, like, God had created me so perfect and there's nothing I can do about it. You know, and there's specific, you know, talents that he uses that, you know, he's given me that, you know, is different from what he's given you. And it's just beautiful that I can use what God has given me for his purpose, and it's just amazing how much he loves. And I think the biggest thing for me was learning how to surrender my anxieties and whatever feelings that I was feeling at the time. That was the biggest thing, to just surrender to God, because it isn't something that we should hold, you know, by ourselves. That was the biggest thing for me.
Someone out there may be watching this, they're dealing with super stress, and maybe school related, or some other aspect of life. Satan is trying to get them to take their own life. What would you say to them is the first step to take away from that direction?
Yeah, the biggest thing I would say to somebody is to just talk about it with somebody, someone who you feel comfortable enough, and that you will know that will listen, not just a random person. And just make sure it's someone you're comfortable enough, and there always is somebody out there who will listen and who will just be supportive of you, you know, no matter what, no matter how much you think that, you know, this person won't, because that's how I felt. I felt like, you know, it was a burden to put this on somebody, and I didn't know if they would listen. For me, that was my parents. I didn't think they would have been supportive. In reality, they were so supportive of me. There was someone always out there, and for me, that was also was Christ, and he was the biggest person that I could surrender everything to, just let him know how I'm feeling. That was so big for me, just learning how to talk with somebody and be vulnerable enough to let them know how I'm feeling, and that no matter what I'm feeling, it's okay. They're just feelings. You know, and a quote that I heard is that if you're not speaking it, you're storing it, and that gets really heavy, as it did for my situation. And I like to think of something else I'd heard, that is that, you know, feelings are like a bird. You know, birds passing by they fly over your head, you know, all the time. There's nothing you can do about that. But you can stop them if they were, you know, to try to attempt to build a nest on your head, you know. But, you know, to put this into perspective, you know, and make it more to reality, like emotions, you know, they're gonna come and go. But you can't let them sit and sort of, you know, try to build a nest like the bird. You can't let them sit there and just dwell on them. You know, you have to, you know, shoo that bird off. Just, you know, say, okay, that, you know, I'm feeling like this, but I don't need to dwell on it. I don't have to dwell on it. And in fact, if I do dwell on it, whatever emotion I'm feeling, that it's just gonna, you know, keep digging its roots in there. It's gonna get hard. So I need to just let it go. And it's a lot, you know, obviously a lot easier to say that, but, you know, over time, that's a process. You have to learn that these are just feelings. You know, you don't have to attach your identity to them and feel like that you have to be stuck in that feeling. That feeling is going to come. Every feeling is going to come and go. And you just need to ride the wave.
Okay. I'll ask one last question. Somebody maybe, you know, themselves are not thinking about committing suicide, but maybe they know somebody and they're worried that they might be headed in that direction. Do you have any advice for someone in that scenario?
Yeah, I'd say how it's different, different situations, but I'd say that for me personally, I would have responded well to someone, saying that. It's hard to say though. I don't know. I think the biggest thing is the attempt to reach out to whoever maybe they may not be doing so well. To attempt to reach out and maybe to ask them if there's anything to do to help, if they need a listening ear, if there's really just anything, try to reach out. But I think the strongest thing is, as believers, is to just pray about it. Because at the end of the day, if that person's not ready to talk to you or talk to anybody, there's nothing that you can do. You can't force them, sort of like how Jesus never forced anybody to follow him. You can't force anybody to come out and share what they're not comfortable with. So I think the biggest thing is just to reach out, pray about it. If they're not ready, then they're not ready. You can't force them. But just be wary and watch them and just make sure that try to do what you can. Just be supportive of them in whatever they're going through.
That's beautiful. Isaac, thank you. Thank you for everything you shared today. It's very courageous of you to do this, and my prayer and hope is that this is just going to be a spark that opens up many opportunities for you, a fire where you can use your story, share it with others, and just make a powerful difference for God and his kingdom in this world. So thank you for your courage. Thank you for your openness. And God bless you. And thank you all for listening. We'll catch you next time on the I'm Excited podcast. Thank you.